Okay, as always, we're just winging it with these videos and thought rather than continue till it was completely done, I'd throw in a few comments about halfway there. Okay, this is 35 minutes into the process from the last time you saw the pipe, and I thought I'd just comment on the simplicity. It's deceptive sometimes when you, especially in my case, when you look at the banks of files and specialty tools. If you are wanting to do a project like this one, you don't need that kind of stuff. All that I've done so far was, now this is the blank that this thing came from, was the large chunk, the base of this, all that massive material. I spun that off, turning it like this against a belt grinder, knife grinder, but that slack belt sander that a hammock sander that I detailed or made a video about a few weeks ago would work really well for the same task. And once that was down to within a reasonable distance, a ½ millimeter or so, all that I've done since is this is something you can make yourself. These wedges, they're shims designed for mostly appliances like refrigerators and stoves and stuff like that. You buy them in stacks in hardware stores, and they cost like $1 for 3-inch stacks of these things. And they're sharp on one end. You just cut off a little bit of that so that you don't have a true bladed edge. And then they're tapered. This is a mouse pad. You've heard me mention those many times. And to that, I've affixed some of that sanding belt stuff that I also talked about in the slack belt or the hammock sander video. Comes in different colors, don't let that bother you. And one side of this is sponge with a 80 grit, and the other one is no sponge. Why isn't this focusing today? There we go. And no sponge, straight on the wood. And it comes in really handy for doing this kind of a thing. Now remember, your biggest problem when you're trying to match the levels here on something like this is the stem material is going to be harder than the wood. So if you start doing this number and you think, hey, I got them all nice and level, you'll find that this sags through here and kind of bumps up here. If you want to keep this stuff level, you actually have to go side to side, which confuses a lot of people at first because it's counterintuitive, but really that's the way you do it. The only time you start going this direction is when you begin to finish sand. And that, by the way, so far all I've done is just a scrap of 150 and just did this number here. The top of the rim was done on a piece of sandpaper and some cardboard like this. And that's about it. I've got to obviously do the finish sanding, but I thought you'd appreciate knowing that in 35 minutes, using this much stuff, with the addition of the knife grinder, which would probably have saved 10 minutes maybe if you had to do it otherwise. But this kind of a project is well within reach of anybody that wants to try it. It doesn't require exotic and expensive and extensive tooling like most repair work does. That's the kicker of repair work versus making whole pipes, is you have to be prepared for anything that comes along, whereas if you make your own pipes, you just make them the way you want and use only what tools are necessary to do that. But this kind of splits the difference. You kind of feel like a pipe maker, but it's really half repair work as well because you're replacing the stem. Anyway, it's a bunch of fun. This is just a lark. Came to me out of the blue that this might be fun to try. So there we go. I'll finish this up in the sense of basically all it needs is sanding. The button needs to be finished. The shaping obviously is still molded there, but I'll finish shaping the button, sand the whole thing down, stain the bowl, shine up the stem, and that'll be all there is to it. And I'll let you know how the thing smokes. That's it. Alrighty. That's it for now. Hello again. Okay, this is the wrap up, the final result you can take a look at here. Turns out we had a really nice piece of wood. Barling indeed knew what they were doing in selecting bowls. There's not a flaw of any kind on this, not so much as a sand pit. Why it wasn't given a high grade, I have no idea, but it's a really nice piece of wood. The stem, I chose a button. I like a button that's more ergonomic, and it's doesn't have any sharp edges. The back edge of it is sloped rather than straight up and down, and it makes it easier to keep it clean. There's not a line of crud in there. It doesn't accumulate crusty stuff. And a wide slot. Anyway, we talked about the internals of the airway before. What you're no doubt noticing first off here is what in the world's going on with that cluster of white dots. Well, you get three guesses. This is all kind of like a visual joke. I mean, this whole thing is sort of like that. And it looked incomplete without some kind of emblem in that place. And I thought, if Dunhill can put one dot on their stems, well, I can put a dozen on this one. Anyway, I guess you have to be a solitary pipe repairman to find that funny, but I did. So there you have it. Anyway, I, as promised, did not smoke it, take it for a test drive yet. I will, and I'll add to the comments section. I've got a single video that's listed under a playlist heading, but there's just the one, and it's questions and answers. And if you haven't spotted it before now, there you go. It keeps me from having to patrol 125 separate videos looking for questions every day. So they all go to one place, and I'll let you know how this thing smokes as a comment. Anyway, as a final thought, you guys who are playing with something like this or would like to, it's really a kick because it removes the parts of each half of the process that are onerous. And by that I mean the hard part of making stems isn't really making them, it's getting them to match exactly. You're making a replacement, you want it to be identical in every way. That's where the work comes in. And when you're also the leveling part, if you're a pipe maker, you know that once you get the bowl cut and the thing drilled and it's mostly shaped, then the fun begins. So you start with a completed shape, and all you do is sand it and refinish it. And nowhere do you have to deal with this business. As a repairman, you know that getting the stem shank joint level is a real problem. And here, of course, it's a non-issue. So all of the ugly, unfun stuff went away, while the fun stuff remained. And so anyhow, there you go. That's it. This has all been like an amusement park ride, the pipe repair version of one. So that's all. Thanks as usual for watching all this crazy stuff, and I'll be putting up a serious video here fairly soon. I've got something interesting in mind. Alrighty then, take care. Bye.